Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency, 504-556-0809 or davemietteINSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Remember, we're also live streaming right now on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, so a couple ways to be able to catch us. Live here on the air on WLAE-TV and also on our WLAE-TV YouTube page. We're getting a lot of folks that are enjoying that as well. We appreciate you guys checking it out. Today on the program, we'll cover all the home teams, Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all and breaking it down for us, one of our favorite guests, Mike Detillier of WWL Radio, and of course, his fantastic draft book as well, and also with Thibodeau Regional. Mike, how you doing?
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Eric.
Always good to have you.
Styling and profiling all over the world.
Mike, before we get started, first of all, let me ask you about Thibodeau Regional. I want to also ask you a little bit about the draft book, which is going to be coming out as well. Tell us a little bit, because you got some stuff going with them.
Yeah, last week they broke new ground on Phase 2 of the Wellness Center.
Right.
Phase 1 has been up for a few years. Almost 500 million people have walked through that Wellness Center.
Wow.
You know, when Greg Stock first talked to me about it, he was like, we'd love to have 3,000, 3,200 people work out at our Wellness Center. It got up to 5,000. Pandemic hitting it, and it's peeled back now. And he's always talked about a Phase 2 part of it. And they broke ground last week. They will build a football, soccer field.
Right.
Stands where I think it's up to 1,000, 1,200 people would be able to watch games from there. A 8-lane track.
Right.
So you could have track meets there. I think the big thing is going to be the beach volleyball. It is the hottest sport in America today. At one time it was a California deal, but not anymore. It's all over.
Yep.
And so they will have tennis courts set up, but the beach volleyball and everything is being built to NCAA specs. So would have tournaments there. And Eric, I just take a look back at it from the building of the Wellness Center now into the Phase 2 part.
Right.
And not the best of economic times. No one could have predicted the pandemic part of it, and yet it has really been such a huge part of the community on the bayou. And now it's not finished yet, but building a new cancer center right in front of the old cancer center. So tremendous amount going on the bayou, and I think we all knew that with the oil field and the unsteadiness of it. Because how many times have we went through the roller coaster in our lifetime, you and I?
No doubt about it.
A lot of it that the medical field, and I think is going to be a big part of resurgence in our area. And to have Thibodeau Regional do what they've done, you know, Greg Stock and the board members there have just done a fantastic job of looking into the future of what could happen and the rehab and trying to keep people, you know, alive a little bit more.
Sure.
Come on, we all eat and drink a little bit too much in our lives. But to have a facility where you can work out, and also to, I think this is going to be the first steps of a resurgence too of athletics on the Bayou, which I hate to say this, but they almost treated it like PE for a little while. Okay, everybody gets a medal and a trophy.
Right.
Come on, that ain't life.
True.
It's not real life. And it, I think, will give people an opportunity to advance their careers, not only as a player, but also as trainers, people in the medical field, and that sort of thing, and opening up those jobs for people that want to stay in sports in some manner.
Yes.
And it may well be as a trainer, athletic situation there. And so I think it's just wonderful for the Bayou to see it just blossom like this. At one time, Archie Manning and I were talking about this. Mike, I practiced right behind Nichols State. It was a cane field.
Yes.
And I grew up, that's what it was, behind the hospital. And he said, only thing I can remember mid-70s, we went there for summer training, and that summer it rained almost every day. And he said, Mike, the skeeters there could have picked you up and took off what you hit. And I knew what he meant.
Right.
Man, they had some big boys there. So just fantastic. And all the camps now, and hopefully we can get that in. Wasn't able to get it in last year, but Louisiana Line Camp, the biggest line camp in the country.
Yes.
Manning Camp, 1,200 quarterbacks, receivers. And I'm talking about from all over the country.
Right.
You walk in that parking lot and see Michigan, driver's license, and California, and Oregon, and Wisconsin, Texas, everywhere come in for that. And that has been such a huge thing, along with Dr. David Elias's OrthoLA's part in bringing up this combine where they test young athletes for combine. We had the biggest showing ever. Not last year because we didn't have it, but the year before, over 350 young men from the area to come out with that. So you're talking about, you know, 500-600 linemen, 1,200 quarterbacks and receivers, 350 athletes from the area, and it's all done within a 3-week span. And Manning and the line camps all done within 11 days.
Right.
So it's really tight, but it's been great for the area in sort of a dead period of the summer.
Economic impact's got to be great.
It's huge. Vic LaFont, who does it, he had told me, you know, we're talking a couple of $1 million impact in a little small area. Right. You can't find a hotel, motel anywhere on the Bayou area. We've had people call me up, well, I can't find a hotel. I'm going to stay in New Orleans and travel, and then, you know, I can go and get a little bit of nightlife.
Sure.
And hopefully by the summer things will be better in that part, because and you just feel for the restaurants and everything in the area that have taken such a huge economic hit, and it's out of your hands at this point, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So the fact that Thibodeau Regional would step up and do this is tremendous. And this may be some of the worst economic times and uncertainty because of the COVID issues.
Right. But again, you have an opportunity to be able to continue to build something like that on that physical plant. You had mentioned it, opportunity to be able to have locals to be able to utilize that. Is Nichols also going to utilize that as well?
Nichols is also going to be involved. They're trying to work out a deal with Nichols State. And man, to see what Coach Rebo has done, you know, it's unbelievable. Right. And I always throw this stat out to Timmy that before he took over, in the 29 Southland Conference games before Rebo took over as head coach at Nichols, they were 1-28 in the Southland. Back-to-back Southland Conference championships. And I'm not sure, depth and talent-wise, this, what we're seeing in the spring, is maybe not the best team he's ever had.
Right.
The uncertainty going in was for one thing, for me, the place kicker, which it would, and that's very shaky. And we hadn't seen Lindsey Scott.
No,
We had talked about it, but we hadn't really seen him. He had bounced from LSU, JUCO, Missouri, back to Nichols. He's been fabulous first 2 games, and not this week, but next week when they play Sam Houston, that'll be interesting. On that matchup between those 2 teams. Man, Tim's just done a fantastic job.
Really is.
They have new facility now that they're building in the end zone. So if you've passed or been to a game, you see that. I think it'll be finished in either May or June. It's just wonderful for the program to have. That'll be used by all athletics, but man, the impact of Tim Rebowe and then that first recruiting class, Chase Fourcade from Rummel, Sully Lesh, coming from Lutcher, and all the guys around that, and they helped build the program. And Chase is actually working on the staff.
That's what I heard. He's on the staff.
He's actually on the staff. He's going to play some Arena Football League, but his impact along with Sully just was unbelievable to sort of jumpstart you. And then everybody, hey, man, I know who Sully is. I'm going to go play with Sully. Or I know who Chase is. I'm going to go play with Fourcade.
Plus, they were helping to recruit as well,
and
right?
they were pretty good recruiters at that particular point. So, man, they got it rolling now. And, man, Julian Gums at running back. And I always tell me about this because, he shouldn't tell me certain things. Okay, and so we doing our weekly show with him, and so back and forth, and he tell me, I'm thinking about maybe redshirting Gums in year 1, but he said, man, he's really practicing well. And man, you take a look at him; he's a 5'11.5", 235-pound running back. And I'm like, Timmy, they ain't got nobody else on that field like him. And he decided not to redshirt him. Really played well down the stretch. And listen, sometimes you're just trying to figure out what to do because he had some backs at that time that were pretty good. And you think this is a young man who was a quarterback in high school and kind of redid his body. And man, he's well built today. He was heavy when he first came in, but he's an unbelievable football player. And certainly Dixon, who got an invitation to the NFL Combine. So they haven't had a big chance to showcase him because they're jumping all over these teams so quickly. But Dixon is a next level player. He's a next level player. He's a big receiver who's got really good foot speed. And man, to think about most of those recruits, I would say probably 96%. If you dropped a quarter on Thibodeau, it's all around there. It's New Orleans, a little bit into Baton Rouge, River Parish, here, there. And he's done a fantastic job of convincing them that, hey, listen, this is the place to play, giving them an option. And sometimes you have players with grade issues that maybe can't get in somewhere. Nichols is the option for that. To see the success of what he's done there is remarkable. Then, I take a look in Hammond and what's happening at Southeastern, and just a little out west, University of Louisiana, with Billy and what he's been able to do there is just remarkable. And I hear people talk about, well, like Tulane, and certainly Willie, I think, is building that program.
I agree.
He's got to do better in the state of Louisiana. Now, this stuff about 4- and 5-star recruits, and I hear and read about it. Okay, what's the chances of that happening? The guys that are 4- and 5-star recruits, they're not going to LSU, Texas A&M, TCU. I mean, you surrounded Arkansas, Florida State is big in the state today. What's your chances of landing those guys? But if you can get the threes
and coach them up,
Here's the crazy stat. In the last 5 years, 67 Division I wide receivers produced from this state.
Wow, that's incredible.
Think about that. In a 5-year time span, 67 Division I wideouts. You can't tell me today that's the position every top athlete wants to play.
Sure.
Growing up, what it was, either quarterback or running back, okay?
Of course.
Not today. Hey, man, we throwing the ball. I want to play wide receiver. And I always used to tell this to Pete Jenkins. when he would separate everybody. And he was tweet, offensive lineman over here, defensive lineman over here, linebackers over here, all my pass rushers, come over here. I told him, I said, Pete, I'm not afraid to get in front of all those defensive ends. You know why? There's about 8 of them. They just walk all around you. And you see all these offensive linemen, defensive linemen, okay? And then when you hear the tweet, receivers go over here, Eric, you and I better not stand in because we can't get out of the way fast enough.
Right.
It's unbelievable. That's what today the top athletes, they want to play wide out. They want to play wide receiver or this flex tight end. And you talk to them, especially when we have the combine, Dr. Elias's combine, and you talk to him, man, you see this big 6'4" guy, and oh, hey, how are you? I said, I'm good. I said, what do you play? On defense. Oh, I don't play defense. I'm a receiver. I play the flex tight end.
Right.
And you're like, man, years ago, that guy, he's got
defense.
his hands in the third,
Right.
or he's standing up rushing a quarterback today. So, the world's changed. It's become much more specialized, but much more offensive.
Yes.
Much more offensive.
How has the community embraced spring football this time around?
I think, like everybody else, it takes a little bit of getting used to. It takes a little bit.
I got to remind myself. I really do.
Of doing it. And, the weather situation a couple of weeks ago was remarkable for here that, we, every once in a while, I mean, in our lifetime, how many times have we experienced that? Maybe you could count them on one hand.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that had a part early, but I think it's starting with the weather situation getting better. And I think people feeling as though I got to get out of the house. And this gives them an opportunity. And I think it'll be embraced more as we go along with it. But I feel bad for the high school kids, not the top ones, because they're always going to get those scholarships, but the middle range guys, because you can't go on campus. It's, that lost sort of junior year. But now, colleges, not saying LSU or an Ole Miss or whatever, they're not experiencing this, but if you're a Nichols or a Southeastern, you're going to experience this. Okay, that year that they can get back, that guy can get back on campus.
Right.
Okay, we got to pay for his scholarship, and then there's a hangover to that, to the following year.
Right.
So we're talking about not only affecting 2021, we're talking about affecting 2022. And some people don't get it. Well, why so-and-so don't have a scholarship? Hey, you're not living in the real world, are you? You understand that some of these schools just financially can't do it.
Right. The NCAA, when they did this, they didn't take it to the next level where, again, they looked at the numbers, expanding the numbers, doing everything else, and also making sure the colleges had the wherewithal to be able to continue to be able to give these scholarships to these kids as well. I mean, look at Tulane right now. Tulane's got 8 returning seniors because of the COVID year. I mean, look, for a program like that is huge, having a guy coming back for a 5th year.
Right.
Okay, or maybe in some cases
a 6th year.
Right.
So, I talked to Ed about this at LSU, and he was like, what was my last comment to the guys in my locker room after our final game? The biggest recruits I have to recruit, they're sitting in this room.
And he did.
And he did. He was able to get Glenn Logan and Neil Farrell. Ollie Gay was the biggest surprise because I thought, man, you take a look at him and how he's going to work out.
Right.
That guy, he looks like an NFL defensive end. And at times he flashed it that he was a big-time player. But to get that and then to have Deculus and Ed Ingram and Shanahan and Rosenthal, who also was a major surprise to me. Chason Hines wasn't, but Derry to come back was him and Ollie, because I thought they were both gone at that particular point. That was maybe Ed Orgeron's best recruiting situation
I think so
ever.
Too.
To get those guys to come back, because I'm not saying Glenn or Neil would have been high round picks. They may not have been selected at all. Shanahan wouldn't have been selected at all. Austin would have been a late round pick. Dari's got the potential to be a good player, but he's got some issues too. Most likely a later round pick. Ingram, I think, would have been a middle round selection. To get him to come back was huge. And you had all those young kids late that played.
Right.
And they hungry now. You know, come on, we've been beat up, okay? How you handle that situation. And I told you this in the summer, I repeated it early fall. LSU's biggest battle was handling success.
Yes.
I don't care who you are, from head coach all the way down, athletic director all the way down, how you handle success. We see it in our business. They have people that we see at the middle range level, great workers, super people to be around. You know, they reach a certain level, you know, hey, I am who I am. You know, don't tell me anything. And I think no matter who you are in life, you need somebody to sit on that shoulder and tell you, hey, what you're doing is wrong. Think about what's going on. And the turbulence of what happened with COVID, the off season, what happened with the social injustice situation, everything else. Okay, that played a part in it, but again, it goes back to success. Somebody has to tell you, hey, what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing, you got to handle it differently. Maybe you haven't handled that before, but you got to do it a certain way. You got to understand the situation that you're in today. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Ed Orgeron, Nick Saban, I don't care who you are as a head coach, they're not sitting there at 5:30 in the afternoon watching the CBS Nightly News.
No.
Come on, they got other things to do.
Right.
Somebody has to be around you, not sometimes to whisper in your ear, but to scream in your ear. Hey, they got things happening in this world. You better pay real close attention to it. And also handling success.
Right.
Learning how to handle that. So what happens? You get beat up. You didn't get beat. You got beat up.
True.
Okay? And so you got humbled. You went from the national championship year, the greatest year ever at LSU, to a humbling situation, and it didn't take long. And then it's to get it back. Get back that eye of the tiger. Get back that fight. And what did it take? The young kids, the freshmen, the redshirt freshmen, the sophomores to say, you know what? We're not putting up with this anymore because we're just getting beat up. We got to stand up to this. There comes a moment for everybody that happens to. In your life, my life, everybody's life, we're not taking it anymore, okay? We're going to do what we got to do to find our way out of this. And they fought their way out of it. Now, they got a lot of people today that would come on this show, well, I knew it. I knew LSU. Come on, that's a bunch of horse hockey. Those are the same people that 2 years ago. It is the only thing he's ever told me was, man, a couple years back I heard somebody on one of those shows say, average talent at LSU, average talent. Then I went from average talent to great talent, so I was a bad coach then, I was a bad coach then. So he says, okay, explain to me, the genius that says that, okay, if I was a bad coach with average talent, I win a national championship, I won it because of talent, what happened in that 1 year?
Right.
Okay? So, but it's the only comment he's ever made to me like that, because most of the time he really don't pay too much attention to what's being said. But I think that there is a part in that, you know, sometimes you got to get humbled in life.
Right.
You got to get humbled.
Yeah.
And he got humbled.
Sure.
And the program got humbled.
Right.
And looking what they're going to have back. And I don't know what's going to come about with this investigation behind the scenes of what was going on at LSU. Certainly that, to me, is disturbing.
Right. Of course, as it should be.
And it should be
Right.
of cover-up.
Right.
It's not the only school like that.
No, it's not.
I think it's widespread.
Right.
But this
when you're dealing with sexual assault and there's a cover-up, there's an issue here.
There's a major issue.
And it's not just in the athletic program, it's in the university.
It's widespread.
Okay.
But you see, they don't want to open that Pandora box. They just focused on the athletics today. But come on, overall, that's widespread in colleges today. And
it's an institutional problem within the universities.
I think across our country today. And so if that is not going to be something that's a distractive issue, which I don't know what's going to happen there. And I was surprised with the allegations on Coach Miles.
I think everybody was.
You know, I got a few people tell me, well, I heard about it. I was like, okay, why didn't you say something if you heard about it? Okay, come on, you didn't hear about that. That just to say you knew, you know, but you really didn't know about it. But it goes to show you too, behind the scenes, you don't know. You think you know, but you don't know what's happening in someone else's life or what's happening behind the scenes with a coach, a player, a regular student. You really don't know about any of that. My life's boring, Eric. I hate to admit it. My life's boring in this, like, because even, you know, my kids and my wife would tell me this, Dad, you know, everybody thinks you live this lavish lifestyle and everything. You live a boring life in comparison to some of the stuff you hear, and thank goodness I do at that particular point. But it does go to show you that things, man, how rapidly
that they could change.
Could change.
No doubt. What about the coaching staff, the changes there? What do you think about the coaching staff and what he was able to do? He got younger. We talked about that.
Yep.
We thought that he was going to have more African Americans on the staff. He got that as well. It seemed like he checked all the boxes he was looking for as he made this change on his coaching staff.
I think, you know, one of the things with Ed, you know, I think he got it. You know, he understood he needed to make some changes. I think naturally in any business that you're in, if you've got a connection to somebody, you know,
there's a trust factor.
You lean there because you know them.
Right.
And there's also a trust, but also a work ethic that you know about, that you don't know about with someone else.
Agreed.
You're sort of guessing at that particular point. Now, Durante is interesting because, man, it's been a while since him and I had talked, but he was at Nicholls State.
Right.
You know, and a great staff there at that particular time, especially on the defensive side of the football. And I like somebody today that's handles the secondary, because today with so much nickel and dime that's being played all across the board, you better know what to do on every play, and it's a communication issue. And I think Durante will do a really good job with that. Bringing in Baker, I think, certainly helps out a lot too, because he was a coordinator at Louisiana Tech, coordinator at Miami of Florida. His wife's from the area, so he knows the area really well. He went to Tulane. You know, he kind of connects the dots all over. And I think one day, if there's success, just like I told you with Ryan Nielsen, no matter where he went, he's won and he's gone.
Yes.
Now, if he'd have went to LSU, be the defensive coordinator, he'd have been there 1 year, and he's in the NFL as a defensive coordinator. Durante may be in the same situation.
Okay.
If he's got success there, he's gone. Then Baker, I think, would be the natural guy. And again, he's got some experience there. Andre Carter is a guy with 80 quarterback sacks. There ain't a lot of people walking this earth that got that on the resume at the NFL level. And so he brings some expertise there as a pass rusher. And I know Ed's always about pressure. And Eric, I don't think he'd mind me saying this. I have never heard him talk about a defensive line like I have heard him talk about this year's version. And I'm talking about when he was at USC, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU, even the national championship year. He didn't talk about defensive line like he talks about the talent and the depth he's got on this defensive line, which is really, I think, going to be the strength of their defense. And you think about how it closed with an Andre Anthony, really coming up big, playing that outside linebacker kind of hybrid defensive end. Ali Gay, B.J. Ojolari, a true freshman, and those three guys. And I'm telling you, it won't take him long. Savion Jones from St. James. He reminds me so much, and I wrote this 2 years ago. He reminds me of Daniil Hunter.
Okay.
I mean, he's a great athlete, tremendous basketball player, but he's got some weight now on that frame, and it ain't gonna take him long. And he knows one thing: he's got a motor, red hot.
Yes.
You know, when you play for Coach Valdez, you're gonna play hard, and he plays hard every snap. I look at the defensive line. Okay, you got Glenn Logan, Neil Farrell, the two experienced big men play a defensive tackle. But who played other than, say, Andre? Who played best down the stretch? Jaqueline Roy, a true freshman at defensive tackle. Now Guillory's got to lose some weight, but he's another big man in the middle.
You got Mason Smith coming in.
And all I can tell you is I saw him 3 years ago.
Right.
I wrote an article, and I'll never forget, man, I got people calling me from these different recruiting sites about, man, I don't know nothing about no Mason Smith. And I got tipped off by the most unlikeliest source. If I told you this whole story, you wouldn't believe it. But it was a young lady that saw, and she thought his last name was Mason, okay? And tells me that's a guy at Terrebonne High School, his last name is Mason. You got to go watch him play. And you walk on that field and you see him as a sophomore and you say, oh, wow, look at the size of that guy, and here's the thing that's amazing about Mason Smith. Growing up, if you went one-on-one, if you watched the defensive lineman, no matter how good he was, how many times you heard of a team double teaming him? It was rare, huh? You didn't hear that back in the 70s or early 80s.
Right.
Mano a mano, okay, if he beats me, but there was no, kind of combo block, that sort of thing with defensive linemen. Mason Smith, I've seen him play in a game, 3 guys trying to block him. That's remarkable. People say, well, my cousin, he handled him. Yeah, he handled him all right when he had help from 2 other guys. So already, Ed has talked about Mason Smith as a guy that's going to play and play early. Man, so Eric, man, we talking about, what is that, 8 guys, 9 guys up front along that defensive line? And Ed has always been a pressure guy. Pressure breaks the pipe and get after it. It'll help the secondary. The line play, bringing in Jones, I think from Clemson, is going to be a big addition because when you watch him, doesn't he look like Debo and Duke Riley,
Same
and
mold.
Patrick Queen, that 6 foot, 6'1", all about 220, 225, in that range, and they can move. But in today's world, I can't have a 250-pound linebacker that can't cover.
True.
Because every time I see him out there, I'm whispering to my quarterback, hey, pick on that linebacker. We had on Coach Jenkins a few weeks back, and his deal is, worst position to play if I'd be a player today, linebacker. Because, in all this RPO system, he said, okay, if I see that quarterback and he puts that football in the belly of a back, okay, my first instinct is to get up the field. And you know what's going to happen? That quarterback rips that ball out and he throws it right over the top of you. So he says, okay, if I play coverage, I see, what I see? We're going to play coverage. Okay, I spread you out 4 receivers. I'm dropping back in coverage. They hand it off to the running back. Okay? Now, if I'm spread out 4 receivers, and then all of a sudden a guy goes in motion, a 5th, I got to cover him. The game defensively is getting smaller.
Yes.
So, we talked about this in the summer, and they got people, the running game, that don't mean nothing. It's a passing world. Okay, to a certain extent it is.
Right. You're always going to run the football.
You got to run the football. Look how the Bucks ended the year, Tampa Bay.
Right.
Look at what Fournette did for that football team late.
No doubt.
Not only as a runner, the little short pass
He always
coming
catch
out
them
the
up.
backfield. It worked.
Yes.
It worked to perfection. And you got to be able to run the football today because, okay, common sense, which a lot of people are lacking.
Yes.
Okay, if I'm taking out a 240-pound linebacker and I'm taking out a 280-pound defensive lineman and I'm going to nickel and then dime and I'm putting in a 200-pound safety and a 190-pound corner,
Right.
look how much weight I'm losing. So first things first, when I look at the draft today, even more, and I always did it, but even more today than ever, my defensive backs, they can't be Olay tacklers. I can't be whip the deal in this Olay. No, you got to come up and make a tackle. How many of those guys do it?
Not a lot.
And now you know what I'm a recruit? I'm a recruit a big back.
Right.
Okay, I got a small guy that can turn the corner. Give me the big guy. Look what Alabama did you. Okay, they throw the ball here and there, and they had receivers to do it. And I got a 230-pound Najee Harris. I'm going to show you, match up against those receivers. And what Nick would do, hand the ball to Najee.
Right.
Okay, and you got a 185-pound corner, and you got a 230-pound running back. Okay, we didn't go to Harvard or Yale or Princeton, but I know one thing. You ain't winning a lot of battles in that spot. And, man, Najee took it to you. And it was the same thing you saw Clemson. And not that Travis is a huge back, but he's a 215-pound running back. And, you know, when they spread you and then he gets the ball and he takes one step up the field, he's fast.
Yes, he is.
And so you better grab him or you see in the back of his cleats. Eric, it's the part of the world that is changing in front of our very eyes. And yet, you know, it's all this talk about the pitch and catch world. And I get it. Okay, I get it. But, man, run the football and stop the run is still on top of the list as far as that, other than, and I work with a lot of former quarterbacks, okay? You better have that big-time signal caller because come January, okay, that guy might win me games. Can he win me games in January?
We're going to talk about that next when we come back as we switch to the New Orleans Saints. Mike Detillier is with us. I'm Eric Asher. I'm your host. Stick around here for my underwriters. We come back. We got some breaking news for you about the New Orleans Saints. Plus, again, we'll talk a bit about the salary cap that's happening there as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Don't go anywhere.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. With us this evening is Mike Detillier of WWL Radio. Mike, before we jump into the Saints, how about your draft book? When can we expect it out?
Well, man, I'm working on it daily, so it'll be the end of March, and so we'll mail it out first week in April, like we've done all those years. Last year it was the draft was a little bit earlier. It's kind of been pushed back just a few more days. So we'll have it out first week in April. It's unusual because of the situation of how the workouts and everything else is, and the fact that a player could decide, could have decided to come back or not decide to come back. So the evaluation for me hasn't really changed much. I just go by what I see. I think sometimes you get fooled by the workout stuff.
Right.
You fall in love with the athlete, you forget the one big question: can he play football?
You got to put the film on.
But here's the deal, and I get it. For some coaches and GMs, okay, they are caught up in the football season with their own teams, so they don't have a chance to see them and that sort of thing. So you go to the combine, you go to individual workout, and the guy looks good, and you fall in love with him. And you forget what you saw on tape doesn't match the athlete. And it's an old Jim Finks line. Jim told me this years ago when he took over with the Saints. And he said, I got one bit of advice for you. He said, always fall in love with the football player.
Is it true?
Don't fall in love with the athlete.
No. Again, it's not track, it's football. That's for sure. All right, let's jump into it. Again, NFL Network is reporting that the Seattle Seahawks are going to be listening to offers for Russell Wilson. This is a far cry from what we heard last week, where again, we're not looking to be traded, but again, here's a list of 4 teams that we may be interested in going to. And of course, a lot of this has to do with, again, Wilson wanting a little bit more say into what's going on with the offense, what's happening with the franchise as well. Here's the question, and this has been a question we've discussed for a week now, right? What would it take, in your mind, to get Russell Wilson in a Saints uniform, and then the chances of you think that happening, and does that go up now with the NFL Network's report that, again, Seattle is now listening to offers?
Well, I think Seattle put it out first. Come on, a month ago, you started to hear a few of the hoofbeats that Seattle might think about trading Russell Wilson. Then Russell goes on Dan Patrick and says, hey, we need some help along the offensive line. This is where we're getting beat at. In essence, this is a power struggle between the 2 major parties here. Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson. Eric, I said it as soon as I heard it. This is a divorce that's going to happen. Either it happens now or it happens next year. This is a divorce between these 2 guys. It's not like it's the first time. A year ago at this time, wasn't it Brady Belichick? Okay? And Brady started going to him and saying, hey, coach, if we don't get some more help here at receiver, at tight end, help along the offensive line, what more you want me to do here?
Right.
And Belichick's deal is, hey, I'll run the team. Okay? You run it all right. Okay? Then I'm not coming back. And he goes elsewhere. And so here was the greatest combination of our lifetime in the professional ranks. Belichick, Brady, and what they did. Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
They're going to be writing books about this for the next 35, 40 years about that run, because we're never going to see that. In our lifetime, we're never going to see that again. It came to an abrupt halt.
But he was a free agent. This guy, Russell Wilson, has 3 more years left.
Well, basically, what he's saying is, I'm a free agent, now shop me in a trade.
Right.
This is what I think it'll take. They've traded 2 first-round picks off already for Jamal Adams.
Right.
That's a Pete Carroll deal. And Pete doesn't want to hear anybody that doesn't tell him he's the greatest coach around. Okay? He's got 20 assistant coaches. 2 of his sons are on the staff.
Okay.
There's nobody bucking Pete. Nobody telling Pete anything. Again, it goes back to handling success. Pete was a tremendous college coach. He did get Seattle to 2 Super Bowls, and he won 1, should have won 2.
Right.
But then you become, I know better than everybody else. And what's happened? This franchise has sort of peeled away more and more. And I think this is a kind of now taffy pull for, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. Trade me off. It's going to take you 2 first-round picks, plus 2 significant players.
I agree with that.
2 significant players to make that deal work. If I'm the Saints, I do it.
Right.
Okay, because I know what I'm going to get with Russell Wilson. Now, for some people that are in the Taysom Hill camp or in the Jameis Winston camp, just to say I'm right, that's the guy. I'm right.
How do you compare?
You cannot compare those guys.
You cannot compare Russell Wilson and his career and what he's accomplished to what, and with all due respect to Jameis Winston, who started 5 years in the NFL, and Taysom Hill started maybe 5 games in the NFL. It's not even close.
It's not even in the same stratosphere.
Okay, not even close.
It keeps you relevant. It keeps you a Super Bowl team, caliber team, and you're going to have to make some tough decisions.
Right.
And we're going to talk about some of them, but those tough decisions, I think some of them you were sort of planning on already. You knew that eventually you had to pay the football credit card.
There's no doubt.
And it came due. And so now you got to make some difficult choices along the way. And guys that have been here for a while, guys that have been fixtures on this football team, guys that have been good players. And don't soft soap it. And I see this stuff about, okay, the Saints are shopping Malcolm Brown, and read this foolishness about, oh, well, they love the good young players behind Malcolm Brown. Are you kidding me? Why are you trying to con people into thinking, listen, Shy Tuttle,
Right.
Malcolm Roach, they're
nice
great in the
players.
rotation, but they're not starting NFL
They're
players.
not Malcolm Brown.
So they're not cutting Malcolm Brown because they think Shy Tuttle
No.
and Malcolm Roach are starters. They're cutting him because of his salary,
Right.
and the Saints will go out and find another defensive tackle. So what are you going to tell people then? But to read that is almost to the point of ridiculousness on that. They're great as part of the rotation that you want to keep in. They can give you some significant playing time and downs, but they're not starters in the NFL. But to read that and to hear that, to me, is just amazing today that that's the spin off of Malcolm Brown. Come
And he's
on.
not making, look,
And he ain't making a ton of
$5
money.
million for NFL standards for a guy that's a run-stuffing defensive tackle. He's not making a lot of money. I can't believe that they would not look at extending him.
That would have been my thought.
Okay, extending him and again lessening the load against the cap this year. You don't let good football players walk out the door.
It's difficult, and he's still at an age
Yes.
where he's got some
And
football.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here. You saw the difference when he was in the lineup and when he wasn't, when the run defense.
Every year when we have our Louisiana line camp, Ryan Nielsen will always tell me, don't ask me about a pass rush first. Ask me about how we stop the run. Yeah, and a big part of that was Malcolm Brown.
Of course it was.
A big part of that was Malcolm in the middle. And what he would able, and okay, he's not making a ton of tackles, but he's tying up a couple of defensive linemen.
That's not his deal.
That's not his deal. Or to rush the quarterback.
No.
You sort of get fed into that's how you measure some deals. Not everybody's J.J. Watt or Aaron Donald in this world.
You need the other guys that can set the J.J. Watts up, on that line.
And you understand too with Sheldon, that he's going to get a money offer somewhere else.
He has to. Again,
that's going to be significant.
It would be surprising if he doesn't.
Same thing with Trey Hendrickson.
Right.
So now you're going to have to rely.
So would you want to lose 3 players on your line now? 3 contributors if you're going to let a guy like Malcolm Brown go.
So you got to have another alternative here that you're going to bring in a defensive, another starter quality defensive
Are you
tackle.
going to pay him more than $5 million a year?
See, that part I don't know.
You see,
depending on how you can structure that, because now I think what Mickey and Kai Harley have done have been really good.
Exceptional.
And being able to work this. And they had that 3-year run where it was, man, they kind of all chips in. Come on, we got to have this. Because we know Drew's not getting any younger.
Sure.
But then come January, we saw it sort of unravel. The offense wasn't as good as we had saw during the season. The defenses, Richie Pettibone would always tell me this, if you got a kink in the chain, they're going to find it in January. They got enough film on you. They know exactly what you're going to do. And his deal was always, it always starts at quarterback. That guy cannot play bad games in January, because if he does, you watching the rest of the series.
And he can't be limited like Breeze was. And look, Tampa knew what was going on.
They knew he was hurt.
They knew it.
They knew he had gotten to a point age-wise where you to the point of no return, okay? There is a reason Father Time is untied, undefeated.
True.
And then you can say, okay, I'm thinking about retirement. Well, I'm maybe thinking about comeback. But then somebody knocks on your door and says, you know what? I'm going to convince you. It's time for you to walk away. You get 11 busted ribs, a punctured lung, you got a plantar fascia injury, a torn rotator cuff. Okay, isn't that the calling card to say, hey, it's been great. You've had a great run. Gracefully walk out.
You don't want to be that guy that
you don't want to
stays
be
too long.
Unitas in San Diego or Joe Namath with the Rams. You don't want to be that guy. And I think you know it as an athlete. You know you can't play anymore at that same level.
I agree with you, Mike. I think on the flip side, you know when you have something left in the tank and you feel you can go at it a few more times, and I think that happened with Breeze, but I think it's gotten to the point where, again, you can...
There's nothing to go back to. The well's dry.
He understands it at this. He's got to understand at this point.
And I think he does.
I agree. I think he does.
And I think he does, and he's going to announce his retirement and everything else.
It's just, and that's what people are worried about right now. Is he coming? No, he's not coming back.
He's not coming back.
It's just finding the time, especially with COVID, to send him off like he needs to be sent off. The organization's waiting for the right time here. They're going to get it done because, again, free agency's coming up on the 17th, and they have to be under the cap.
Okay.
We know what the cap situation is.
First things first. He redid that contract for a reason.
Right. Dropping
He's
it down
not
to $1 million.
coming back.
Right.
But this is his final gift to you.
That's right.
Okay, and people say, "Oh, he made all this money," and okay, put yourself in his position. Or what are you giving up at your workplace? Maybe that you can get someone else. Ain't nobody doing that, Eric.
No.
That's a bunch of horse hockey to say it. You jealous because somebody made more money than you. Bottom line, that's what it is. And when they needed money, who did they go to? The Bank of Breeze.
That's right, every time, no doubt. Speaking of getting under the cap, the Saints cut Josh Hill yesterday, saved $2.5 million under the cap. That was a surprise. Jared Cook, because of the dummy years in his contract, he also had to be formally released. David Onyemata restructured his deal to free up $4.34 million in cap space. This morning, Will Lutz restructured his deal to free up $1.74 million in cap space. JT Gray signs a one-year, $4 million deal, $2 million guaranteed. We mentioned about Malcolm Brown. It was reported today by Nita Murphick that Thomas Morstead has been released. That's no surprise there, considering his $2 million salary. So again, we're seeing this movement now to get under the cap. At last look, before I came in, Saints were about $50 million over the cap. They're going to cut Quan Alexander. That's going to save $13 million. There's a few more players. Look, it's doable to get under the cap. The question is, if you're in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes now, you're going to be trading players, okay? And they're, much like we're going to see the acceleration of his signing bonus of $58 million that the Seattle Seahawks are going to have to eat. If you're the Saints, you're talking an Armstead, or you're talking about maybe a Lattimore, another player. You got to eat that salary cap, that signing bonus. So again, you're already $50 million over. You have to account for that as well. That's part of the deal here.
Okay, but here's my deal. If I can get me a star quarterback,
you're doing what you got to do.
I'll do what I have to do to get him.
I agree.
Don't give me a maybe something and try to wrap yourself around something that's not there. I'll never forget, and this is 90s, Mike Ditka becomes the head coach of the Saints.
Yes.
And Hank Stram joins us on the radio part, and he's doing the casino shows. And he told me this twice, but he went into a long explanation for it. He said, listen, he always called me Bayou. He said, Bayou, let me explain something to you. Don't fall in love with the familiarity in the room.
It's the truth.
He said, I'm telling you this. He said, because you know why? It cost me. He says, think about my situation in Kansas City. Lenny Dawson won me an AFL championship in Dallas. We go to Super Bowl I. We lose to the Packers, but we got there.
Right.
We win Super Bowl IV. We should have went in January of '72. We should have been back. Right. But we lost in the longest game ever, Christmas Day, double overtime. And he said it changed the trajectory of two teams that day. It changed the Dolphins. It changed us. But he said Lenny got old, okay? But he said my loyalty was to Mike Livingston, okay? Mike had won some games for me. I felt Mike could maybe take us to that point. And he said I was wrong. And he said, you know, I don't want to blame this on Mike. It was me. I made that choice. I had opportunities to go out and get another quarterback, and I didn't do it. Biggest regret, he said, I ever made in Kansas City was that I didn't bring in that guy. And we had gotten older,
right? But
he said we could have sustained a couple more years if I'd have had the star quarterback, and I didn't have it. I didn't have that guy. It got me fired. He said I took the Saints job for one reason. You know why?
Archie Manning.
Archie Manning. He said, my thought was we can build around Archie, we can do it. Year one, Archie doesn't play it down.
Yeah, I know.
He messes up the elbow, doesn't play it down. He said, listen, it took him a little while to come back from the injury, but he says, look what happens the next 2 years.
That's right.
The best 2 years of Archie's career, but I wasn't there.
Dick Nolan was there.
Dick Nolan was.
Right.
And he said, you know, we didn't have the defensive players. He said, man, listen, Archie kept us relevant.
Yeah, he did.
At that particular point. And he says, always remember that, because he said sometimes even the greatest coaches, we fall in love with the people that we know instead of maybe we got to give up something, and maybe it's a lot, but it's worth it. That star quarterback can take me from maybe 8 games to 11 games. And then come playoff time, you know what? I got a shot.
Well, you just said it earlier. You can't win in January without a great quarterback.
Nope, can't
do it.
Now, there are some exceptions
there's
to
been
the
some,
rule,
but
because
good
we've seen it with Nick
defenses.
Foles
Right.
in Philly.
Right.
I think what goes down in the history books and should be looked at closer is Joe Gibbs winning with Theismann, Doug Williams, Mark Rippon.
Right.
Now, listen, I thought Theismann, he would be in the Hall of Very Good, so to speak.
Right.
Doug, I think, is almost at that level too.
Yes.
Mark Rippon, once he got away from Washington,
Right.
he wasn't the same
Well, they
player.
had a strong defense and a running game.
And they had Joe.
Right.
And Pettibone calling the defense, Joe called the offense. To think you won championships and you didn't have the great quote-unquote quarterback.
Yes.
You had two good ones with Doug and also with Joe. But, man, it's remarkable. So you do what you have to do cap-wise. Gay Culverhouse, God bless her, a good friend of mine. She told me this back in May, passed away in July. But she told me, you know what, when the Saints going to come to this, they better find themselves a great quarterback.
Right. Well,
Because she says, you know what, you can manufacture in your head that you got one, but she said, come on, you can't convince me, cannot convince me that Taysom is going to be the guy to do it. Like she said, and I agreed, I think he's a good quarterback for situational. He can help you so many different ways, and I want him on my team. I don't want him as a starter.
He's not your starter.
With Jameis, he has shown his erratic nature. Right. Can you break that as a player? I think it is who part of it you are.
Right.
That's going to be part of it. I got a chance to get Russell Wilson. I get him. I feel for some of the veteran players, and I think this is just the start of it.
Right.
As we're doing this on a Thursday.
Right.
That Morstead is just a start of league-wide what you're going to see. He becomes one of the best trades, draft day trades, the Saints have ever made.
Yep.
You think about his success, how good of a punter he was in this league, that Bill Belichick, when he started talking about the Saints when they played him, his first comment was about Thomas Morstead.
Right. Mike, it's always been a pleasure, man. Really appreciate you joining us. And again, we have to keep our ear to the ground on this Russell Wilson thing. Looks like it's heating up.
I think it's more than heating up.
Yep.
I think something's going to happen within the next 2 weeks with Russell Wilson.
Yep.
That traded to someone.
Right.
Now, I don't know who,
right.
but I think to someone in the next
Makes a lot
of
of sense because again, the new year and the salary cap, no doubt. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, plenty of ways to be able to catch our show. There's a rebroadcast tonight at 6 p.m. on WLAE-TV. Also at 10 p.m. on The Deuce, WLAE-TV 2. On Friday night on 9 o'clock on Pelican Sports Television. 10 o'clock on WLAE. Saturday at 2 a.m. on The Deuce. And then 5 p.m. Saturday afternoon on Pelican Sports Television. Don't forget, again, we're live streaming on YouTube at 1 o'clock each and every Thursday with our live broadcast here on WLAE-TV. Catch all the previous episodes at ericasher.com, also the WLAE-TV YouTube page. You catch me on the radio each and every weekday afternoon, 4 to 6, 106.1 FM, WRKN. You can listen live at ericasher.com, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app. Also, again, our podcasts on all the major podcasting platforms. Search Inside New Orleans Radio Show with Eric Asher. Again, special thanks to Ron Yeager to Mike Detillier for joining us. Also, Ron Yeager jumping into the director's chair today. We appreciate him. Jim Dotson, Tommy Fairley, Tommy O'Connor, my director, William Hill, and, of course, our great underwriters that support this show. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Eric Asher for Mike Detillier. We appreciate your time today. We'll look forward to watching another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.